Really and truly, a lot of the times, the lack of confidence in numbers comes from innately knowing that you're doing something wrong. And I see it a lot with not turning in sales tax or being behind in taxes in general. So these entrepreneurs, already know internally, whether they've admitted it to themselves or not, that they haven't been doing everything that they know they should be doing. And by uncovering those things, unearthing them, holding space for them, explaining that this is going to hurt, but you're going to feel so much better next year at this time
Yeah,
because you will know what you're facing. And
yeah.
you don't have this when are all the cards going to fall? And knowing what you're facing is what really helps you build that confidence.
Welcome to the Visibility Strategies for Women Entrepreneurs podcast, where we empower female business owners to step boldly into the spotlight and claim the recognition they deserve. I'm your host, Tori Barker. I'm passionate about helping women like you transform your visibility into tangible business success. Each week on this show, we'll dive deep into game-changing strategies, share inspiring success stories from women who've mastered their visibility, and offer practical, actionable advice you can implement immediately. Whether you're just starting your entrepreneurial journey, pivoting your business model, or ready to elevate your existing presence to new heights, you'll discover effective approaches to create exciting opportunities and expand your reach. So let's harness the power of strategic visibility and grow your business together. Welcome to the show. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again on the Visibility Strategies for Women Entrepreneurs podcast. I am super excited to introduce you to my guest, Megan Munsell. Megan, how are you today?
I am great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for our conversation because you have a unique approach to finance and business and the way that you look at money and your approach. So I'm really excited for you to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no joy if every year you have to go to somebody who's like your father's crusty, dusty old CPA, because money is just a tool, right? And so working with somebody who's a little bit more fun makes it a little bit more fun for you. And that's why I think that a lot of my clients have really good results.
Yeah. So tell us what your business is about and what makes you so unique.
So my business is a CPA firm at its core. So it's what you would consider a boring everyday business. But what makes it really unique is that I am a shame and judge free space for my clients. And I work primarily with female entrepreneurs and minority entrepreneurs who may not have had access to the highest quality of financial education. And so, no matter where you're coming into my world, whether you are an eight figure, multiple seven figure entrepreneur who needs one on one assistance, or you're a member of my extremely accessible group program, there is an educational layer wrapped up in the work that we do together. Because as an entrepreneur, it's so important for me that you understand your own money and how your decisions impact your money.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the phrases that's like front and center on your website that I absolutely love is so it says where wise women build wealth.
Mhm.
Can you tell me where that came from? And it feels like that's such a powerful phrase in so many different, facets.
So, my mother was an entrepreneur and didn't have access to a lot of good information. So, she had a very good business that I believe would have been a sellable asset in the future, but she was not given the tools to be wise with her money. And so, it's important for me for my clients to build wisdom so that they can build wealth.
Mm,
I am just a consultant. I don't ever want my clients to lean on me really heavily when they're making a decision. I want them to get to a point where they're seeking my guidance, yes, but they feel very powerful in what they
mm.
want and they understand what's going on. And so they can make those moves to become wealthy.
Yeah.
So I'm where you come to build wisdom and wealth.
I think it's so integral what you do because in the space of entrepreneurship, I think that's one of the most common pitfalls or challenges is when it comes to finance. Most of the time, people, when they start a business, they start it because they have a talent or craft
Hmm.
or experience, but it's usually they're least skilled on money, finance, and probably business operations and scaling, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's so important to have resources and tools like you and companies and businesses that do what you do because you have to bridge that gap, especially if you want to really turn your business into something that's going to grow and scale. You
Hmm.
have to understand the finance aspect of the business.
Yeah. And you have to understand what makes a business sellable and scalable, because if your business isn't either sellable or scalable,
Yeah.
then you're just self-employed, and that's noble and that's a wonderful thing. But if you're wanting that asset, that time freedom where you can step away from the business and still make money, you have to put things into place so that it's either sellable or scalable.
Yeah. What are some of those things that you have to put in place in order to make it sellable like you mentioned?
So for a business to be sellable, there has to be some intrinsic value for the business outside of knowledge of the owner of the business. If
Mm,
you, as the owner of the business, are 100% the the brain behind it, the driving force, and there's just systemization, there's no replication of efforts. What they're essentially buying is your client list.
mm,
And that's not going to be as lucrative of a sale as, let's say, you have a proprietary system that helps clients get a certain result that can be replicated at scale. Now,
mm.
that becomes a more lucrative exit. For example, in my own business, I have a book of tax prep clients, a book of monthly accounts and that assists me with these tasks. I'm the face of the business. The client's used to interacting directly with me, etc. If I were to sell that piece of my business, which I do not plan on doing, so do not worry about that. If you're my clients and you're listening, then the only thing I'm selling is somebody's right to service that client, and there's still a risk that the client could move on to somebody else.
Right.
Where I'm building my aligned money method accelerator program, that is going to be something that can be offered at scale.
Mm,
So, what I do in a group setting to make it very accessible for the entrepreneurs under 500,000 in revenue in general is there is a group component where if you're doing your own bookkeeping, it's incredibly affordable. It's 333 a month, includes your software subscription, and at the end of the year, we actually do your taxes for you. But we also help you keep your books up to date until you answer your questions on how to be handling things.
mm,
In that group as well are my starter bookkeeper clients who still like solopreneurs, people who don't have large teams, don't have large accounting needs, but we're still handling their bookkeeping. They come in the group, they have it's complementary with their package. They have the extra access to us through the group program, which allows them to put in any question at any time, and we answer in 24 to 48 business hours. Group calls where you can ask any questions, and then the educational webinars that include implementation and integration. So it's not just
mm,
an hour session, it's this is a workshop, this is your deliverable, this is what you need to do, and bring it to the next call if you need assistance, if it's not landing. So that in and of itself, that program can be replicated across multiple firms. So that becomes a sellable, scalable intellectual property asset. So that's
mm.
kind of the difference.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that I think is interesting to talk about, because you talked about like how to scale, what's sellable, all those things, and I think a lot of people listening can go one of two ways. Like they can either say, "Oh yeah, I can definitely do that," or they're like, "Oh, somebody else could say I just could never do that." And I think that right there boils down to a couple of things relating to confidence and clarity.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so I feel like anyone, either of those scenarios, have the potential to do exactly what you just mentioned. But it
Hmm.
boils down to the mindset and the
Correct.
confidence and the clarity. And so I know that's something that you also support your clients with and have a passion for too, helping these people build
Hmm.
that confidence and clarity. Can you talk a little bit about how that ties into your business?
Yeah, and really and truly, a lot of the times, the lack of confidence in numbers comes from innately knowing that you're doing something wrong. And I see it a lot with not turning in sales tax or being behind in taxes in general. So these entrepreneurs, already know internally, whether they've admitted it to themselves or not, that they haven't been doing everything that they know they should be doing. And by uncovering those things, unearthing them, holding space for them, explaining that this is going to hurt, but you're going to feel so much better next year at this time
Yeah,
because you will know what you're facing, and
yeah.
you don't have this when are all the cards going to fall. And knowing what you're facing is what really helps you build that confidence.
Yeah, and I think kind of tying back to the story of your mom, and I
Hmm.
think it also ties to generational experience and your surroundings in your childhood, how your money mindset has evolved as you've grown into your adulthood and into your business. I think that aligns as well with some of those things that hold people back.
Yeah, yeah, and for sure. And really, what's helped me is I went away to college. So if I look back at my family, including nieces and nephews, I may be the only one that's gone to college out of like my mom and dad and my brother and all of that.
Yeah.
And then going into something like accounting and then going to work for CPA firms and major corporations, you are thrown in with people who have always had money.
Mm,
So my family had money, but it was middle class, blue collar money, which is very different from white collar, savvy money. You know
yes.
what I mean? Like it's a big difference. And so having to learn how to navigate that,
Yeah.
and also being able to see the difference between how my family approaches money and how a lot of my mentors have approached money is really interesting and gives me a unique perspective.
What were, so I think that's an interesting point because, like you said, you came from this blue collar money, if you
Yeah.
will, versus like the wealthy or white collar. How did
Well, the
you,
dollars are the same.
well,
It's
yeah,
just the
and it's just the experience, I guess, right? So
Mhm.
what was your, because you had to go through your own process, right, of reframing
Mhm.
your perspective, your mindset. What were some of those like challenges that you went through, or thoughts that you had to kind of overcome?
So a lot of, because my father worked for General Motors, and was skilled trade. So in the 90s and into the early 2000s, they made a lot of money. And blue collar money in general is a lot more consumerism, a lot more spending the money
Mm,
on things like that. Where what I started to see as I got out of college and in more white collar circles was that there is an increased focus on putting yourself into exclusive situations or circles that you have to buy into, like private school. Um, it also looks like investing, buying real estate. I've been a real estate investor for longer than I've been a CPA. So buying assets that actually pay you money,
yeah,
buying back your time, things of that aren't things that made sense to where I was growing up. And
right.
if I am to talk about money with my family, which I don't, uh, as you can imagine, that's it's kind of like one of those things you just
Yeah.
you can agree to disagree and you just leave it alone. They don't understand some of the things that I choose to do with my money.
hmm
It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's yeah, I can relate because it's, my family came from trades and construction and my
Yeah.
mom was a teacher and so talking being in the entrepreneurial space, there's so many different types of people, different
Hmm.
perspectives, walks of life, like all of that stuff. So it opens up your perspective and your circles to really see how people view money and business in a totally different way. And so that really shifts anything that you may have been instilled as a child or seen or thought was one way. Now it's like that completely blows it out of the water. You're like, oh, I can do something like that, or this is a
Hmm.
possibility. And so for me, I love having the ability to look at all of these different people and say,
Hmm.
this is right for me, this is right for me, this is not, and be able to kind of put my own
Yeah.
puzzle pieces
There's no wrong.
together. Yeah.
There's no wrong way to be. There's no wrong way to be. You just
Yeah.
gotta you have to file and pay your taxes. You can't not do that. And other than that, spend less than you make per month, put enough back where you can, be supportive if you're without income for a few months. And
Yeah.
the rest is just a matter of whatever your preferences are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so let's shift gears a little bit since
Hmm.
the podcast is about visibility. I
Hmm.
want to talk about your journey in your business and your personal visibility journey. How has that shaped over the course of your career?
Well, it is really interesting. I've been writing a book, The Aligned Entrepreneur's Guide to Tarot, and the last chapter I need to write is about the sun. I wrote it to get it submitted to my publisher, but I have to rewrite it because it wasn't my greatest work. Because visibility is something that I've struggled with. And so, really and truly, this week I'm coming off of a trip where I went on a business retreat with some entrepreneur women, and we worked on our confidence, the clarity in our business. And as part of that, as part of being seen, we were actually featured in a runway show in Milan during Fashion Week.
Oh, wow.
So it was a really cool experience. And talk about being visible, we represented some underserved Filipina fashion designers who are often overlooked. And so we were able to wear the fashions that they created. Like we each had a dress that was made specifically for us and showcase them in a major venue during like a key fashion week. It was so cool.
Yeah.
So, but being seen and everything is very hard. And I would consider myself more of an introvert.
Mm,
So showing up consistently on social media is something that I really had to work at. Being comfortable on camera is something I've had to work at, and all of those types of things.
yeah. So talk a little bit more about the spiritual side of things because spiritual and tarot, right? Like
Hmm.
when you and I had talked in our kind of intro call, we talked about how can we tie this all into visibility, and you said, the sun card,
Yeah.
and really maybe pull back, like what does that really mean, and how do you tie that into your business, right? Obviously visibility, being seen, helps you grow your business, but maybe from
Hmm.
a little bit more of a, like, taking the practical to the spiritual to the logical
Hmm.
to the, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I try to tie the spirituality and the esoteric practices into what I do, even from a mundane situation. My group members get a card pull every day with a journal prompt. Um, to be very clear, I don't divine with the cards, especially when it comes to finances, because that's dangerous. You know what I mean? Like people
Yeah.
get reliant on that, and I want people to feel empowered.
Yeah.
And so the way I approach tarot is basically these are the archetypes, this is what it means, asking your higher self questions
Mm.
that will uncover what's actually there and what you already know you need to be doing.
Yeah.
So, from a visibility and the sun standpoint, the sun is basically here I am.
Mm.
And it's, you also have to realize that with the sun, it can burn too bright. So, the key to a balanced sun is here I am in my authentic presence. Just this is just me rather than here I am out of ego. And so
Mm.
that's the challenge is getting that balance. And when you
That's
get that
so
balance, then you move into the world, which is the final card in the major arcana.
that's so interesting because like you said, it's almost like two sides of the coin, if you
Hmm.
will, that you have visibility almost
Hmm.
for authenticity, right? Through
Hmm.
authenticity and for purpose. And then you have visibility for ego and for greed or whatever it might be.
Hmm.
And so you have to walk that fine line, make sure that you're on the right side of the coin.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I do with some higher net worth women, if I have a sister company and I do like mentorship where um they bring their problems, whatever it is going on in their business, their personal life, interpersonal things, and I either guide them through learning how to use the tarot in their own practices,
Mm.
teaching the method that's in my book, or we pull cards and I ask them really good questions and um, help them run through scenarios on a not a technical money. That's not in my CPA firm. That's in my other consulting business. So
Yeah.
that's something
It's
else that I do.
yeah,
I'm a
one thing.
Gemini. What can I say?
Well, it's interesting because it's like, for people listening who may not agree or believe in tarot cards, there's
Mhm,
still some level of spirituality, and maybe it's,
mhm,
um, intuition that you listen to,
mhm,
right? A lot of times it's you go through times in your life where you get those gut feelings and you kind of have this understanding of I need to do this or I need to go this direction or this is not right for me. And so, whatever your beliefs are, I think just having that perspective and
mhm.
understanding is really what we're talking about here and guiding
Yeah, it's not.
you. Yeah.
Cards are little pieces of paper. They're not powerful. They're in and of themselves. They are little slips of paper with some colors on them. So all you're using them for in my method is understanding the archetypes in the story of the
Mm.
tarot. And then looking at the card, understanding that archetype, how could that show up, and asking yourself questions.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is tapping into that intuition. It's helping you quiet the noise
Mm.
because sometimes we're like, I don't know what to think, I don't know what to do. This kind of anchors you to like one type of specific question to ask yourself to get yourself started.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what you got to do. You've got to take that first step, listen to your intuition and move forward and in the path
Hmm.
that leads you in the best direction, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So let's wrap this up. If you can
Okay.
give some piece of advice for our female entrepreneurs listening, maybe how do they find financial abundance or what's a first step that they can take to get aligned with their money for wealth and those types of things. What would you tell our listeners?
I would tell them that the very first step that you can take is awareness. So if you're not already, and I know we hear this all the time on social media, tracking your income and expenses, that is the first place you have to start. All of these other practices where you're doing all these tax strategies, all these wealth building strategies, none of that matters unless you know what you actually have.
Yeah.
Um, so I know a lot of people come and they're always like, "Can you save me money on taxes?" I'm like, "Yeah, but we got to know what you got going on first, and
Can't save money
sometimes,
if you don't have money, right?
and quite honestly, sometimes the most lucrative and life changing thing you can do is just be aware and mindful,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
free.
Yes.
and it's free.
Well, Megan, it's been so great talking to you, and I love, learning your perspectives and your approaches, and being able to think about things differently, and not the
Mhm.
typical CPA approach, if you
Yeah.
will, to finance. I love that. How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about you and find out what you're up to?
Yeah, they can head over to Instagram at Megan Munsell Official. I'm on TikTok at Megan, it's Megan Munsell, or on my website at www.myabundantia.com. I'll give you the link for your show notes so that we don't have to spell that out for them. And then coming soon will be sevenfigurewitch.com, which will be more of the tarot and esoteric practices. So that'll be coming in the pipeline soon.
Very cool. Well, thank you again. It's been awesome
You're
having
welcome.
you as a guest.